Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Series, where we add value to people's lives, happening every Wednesday and Thursday on ebizradio.com. You can catch the Lunchtime Series on all our major podcast channels. And to help us grow the channel, please follow, like, and share with everyone you can, guys. Today's coaching segment, we have the human talent-centered strategist, the executive coach, agile people advocate, and HR and leadership expert, Anja van Beek. Anja, how are you doing? Welcome back to the show. And it's always nice to have you here.
Yeah, so lovely to be. It's our last session for this year, and I'm looking forward to taking a break. But thank you for the invite.
So, I mean, with that said, are you planning on going away? Are you going to have a bit of holiday time?
We're definitely going to have a little bit of holiday time, but we don't have plans to go really away for a long time. So we're planning a trip to America next year, and we decided to have the festive season a little bit more low-key.
Same here. We've also got, my daughter was being promised that she can go visit a friend in the UK in her August holidays. So we're going to plan and save and try and make it happen. So now we've promised that we could take her. So we as a family kind of going over to the UK, and then from the UK planning on going to Paris and trying to be around Europe a little bit, which is really going to be cool. So yeah, we're also just doing low-key kind of being around the house kind of thing. But also we have beautiful pools, so we're going to lie in the sun and just drink cocktails or something.
Yeah, and I think it's all about really spending time with the loved ones, really just recharging those batteries. I mean, if we just reflect on the last year and even the 2 years before that, it's really been so fast-paced, so much change. And I think sometimes just to be is all we need. Yeah, being with our loved ones.
And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So, just considering that the last 2 years, and I mean, you and I have had some beautiful conversations around, how to do things better, how to upskill yourself, how to be more present, how to bring your whole self to your work environment. But today's conversation is to also, I think it's, from a physical wellness and a mental wellness space that we want to speak about, because I think the relax and retreat conversation is necessary. And I think people sometimes don't do it. People, because they're so in a habit-formed process of being busy and doing things the usual way, they stop they don't know how to stop efficiently, right? And I know you've got some really interesting stats to share with us this morning. Don't you want to start off with giving us some context on why you also wanted to have this conversation?
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I think what is so interesting is exactly like you said. What I often find is people taking a few days to switch off. And then, especially if they don't take a longer break, it's almost as if they haven't rested before they return to work. So that's on the one side. How can we make the most of the few or many leave days that we have? But also importantly, exactly like you said, is this always on, being in the technology world. How many people have their calendars, emails on their cell phones? And I mean, how do you really switch off now that you're going on leave? And it seems like a topic as if people say, no, it's not necessary to talk about that. But the stats is actually showing something different. And the stats that I would like to share with you, it was published by the World Health Organization, and it was really focusing first of all on the number of hours of work. Now, as you know, in South Africa, a 45-hour work week is normal. And what they say, the study concludes that if you work 55 hours or more per week, and I think if I look at the clients that I'm working with, so many have deadlines, going into eating into family time, doing those overtime hours, 55 hours, that additional 10 hours is 2 hours per night. It's really easy to get to the 55. And what they found is that there's a 35% higher risk if you work 55 hours or longer. Your risk to get a stroke is 35% higher than normal, and a 17% higher increase of a heart-related disease. So it's so interesting what the World Health Organization found is that since 2016, there was almost a 30% increase when you look at the health related to strokes and heart diseases. Now, that's not only related to longer working hours. Yeah, as we know, it's health style and eating patterns and exercise routines, but definitely working without recovering sufficiently is definitely contributing to that. And I think we need to take cognizance of that, because we can only take responsibility for our own health and mindset. And I think that is just something that sparked my mind to say, yeah, such an important topic to talk about.
Absolutely. 30% is quite alarming. I didn't know that it was so high, and it's true. I think, because I'm still speaking to clients that they just want to finish this for this year. They just want to quickly get to this, and last minute decisions. And I got off the phone with a client yesterday saying, no, we'll definitely want to be starting with this project. We're just trying to, but we'll let you know, the week before December or the week before Christmas time. And I'm going, like, right up to the 23rd, people are still like running out flat and trying to finish. And you kind of have to rein it in just a little bit and kind of have the cognizance to kind of go, okay, cool. When do you stop and just take a day off or take some time off to just effectively be on holiday? And I think, sometimes, depending on the work and the environment, and that's not always possible, but I think tiny tweaks in behaviors can really help, with not having to go through that 55-hour a week kind of process. Simply putting your phone on silent, keeping your emails off your phone. There's little things you can do that will help you get past doing that.
Yeah, yes, definitely, most definitely. And I think the example that comes to mind for me, and it actually epitomizes how our South African, the work ethic that we have. So I was facilitating a 2-day workshop, and the one morning someone arrived a little bit late, and I thought, I wonder why she's late this morning. And then when I investigated, she actually had a deadline and she worked until 3:30 the morning. And just to arrive, 8:30 or at 9ish at the next day's session. And that shows commitment, yeah. But again, as I told her as well, that's great. And now I'm so pleased that you're here. But how are you now going to rest and recover? Because you can't continue like that. Yeah, it's not good if your body is in that overdrive mode the whole time. Yeah, I need to produce. I need to be productive.
So, if you gave us, what are some of the tips that you have for people to relax and retreat? Because I have a list of ones that I found that from Men's Health, published in Men's Health, which is really cool. They have some really, and even though it's Men's Health, it applies to everybody really. But what are some of the tips that you have for us to start taking some action on our relax and retreat?
Yeah, lovely. So I have 3 tips that I want to share, but perhaps just before I'm sharing them, just a thought for our businesses out there, the business leaders, because I don't know if you're aware, but there's 2 countries in Europe, and I like the way what I see with regards to leave and some boundaries and some rules. So the 2 countries are, first of all, Portugal, and they have a law that states, and I'm just going to quickly read that, companies should avoid contacting workers outside office hours except under exceptional circumstances. So by law, they're not allowed to contact you after working hours. And then France, which I also like, has similar in place, where they say a right to disconnect from all your devices, and the implementation of rules to regulate the use of digital devices should ensure the rest time and the leave and the balance between personal and family time, or professional and family time. And there it's regulated by law. So I actually just want the leaders out there to think, what can you do intentionally to support your teams to rest as well. Okay, but you asked me about the tips. So the first, I have 3 tips. And the first one is for us to think of ourselves as the corporate athlete. Yeah. And as we know with the corporate athlete is we do what we need to do to win the race. Yeah. We committed, we're loyal, we're intentional about being very effective. But also the flip side of the coin is to understand, to find that balance between energy depletion, or stress, and energy recovery. And for you to be very, very mindful, how are you going to, if you think of body and mind, how are you going to recover that energy? And I think we always think of, major things that you need to do, or I need to go away on holiday. And even if you just think of small things like being in nature, being more in the sun, making sure that you have a healthy eating habit whilst on holiday, all those things support your body-brain connection and support the recovery of you as a corporate athlete. So I think it's really for us to, when you're in vacation mode, to say, yes, this is now the opportunity for me to, I almost want to say, re-energize yourself. And that's, I think, in the smaller things of life. Yeah. So, just thinking of yourself as that athlete. Yes.
I just want to add, like, from your perspective, because I would see that as a leadership skill, right? As part of your leadership skill, as an efficient leader, you would have the aptitude and the ability and the cognizance to kind of go, as much as you have this drive, you have this work ethic that you are this athlete of work, and that you show up, 110%. Part of your leadership skill is also to be able to show up for yourself, for your family, for really being able to go, okay, cool. How am I completely self-aware of myself and my family when it's called family time, right? How do I do that as a leader as well, right? And how do I encourage that for my workers and my employees as well? Because that in itself is a leadership skill, to being able to recognize when you need to rest and when you need time off.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. And I think you're spot on. I actually saw a study this morning by McKinsey & Company, where they have identified 56 skills that's needed to be successful in the future of work. And I can't remember all of them off by heart, but they divided into 4 domains. And the one domain is exactly like you said, the domain of self-leadership. And I think it slots so nicely in there. And that's definitely one of the skills to be successful in the future of work. Yeah, you said it very well.
Absolutely. And so your second one?
Yeah, so the second tip for me would be to have the ritual, even before you go on leave, to have a ritual with your team where you as a team reflect on the past year. I mean, there's many names that we can call it. We can call it a retrospective. We can call it just a debriefing session. But I call it, let's close off the year so that there's no hanging strings that will bother you while you're on leave. Yeah. So what do you do when you close off your year intentionally? It's really about reflecting on, yes, what worked well, what can we celebrate? But also, as you said, it's about tweaking. What's the tiny tweaks that we need to make as a team? And discuss that now before the year kicks off, and almost have a list to say, okay, these are areas that we want to talk about next year, or perhaps focus on next year. And I think it's also about those elephants in the room that we usually don't talk about. It might have been a lack of accountability. It might have been people not really being respectful or inclusive as much as we would like them to be. And I would not necessarily suggest to say, let's have that conversation now. But if it is the time and the place, why do you not have it in order to make that part of closing the year on an intentional way? And I think just that act of, yes, we intentionally looking at, let's close off 2022 as a team. Let's look forward at what 2023 involves, and not only strategy, but also how we effectively work as a team. So that was my second tip. And I think the third one,
Sorry, but
Yeah.
just to add to that, I think a lot of people don't even think of it. A lot of organizations don't think of how do we close the year? How do we close the year and then reflect on the year? So, and that could be some major recognitions of what you've overcome, or some things that were overlooked, perhaps. And it's one of the things we need as humans is recognition. So it's just to have that reflect and recognize part of a close off session. I think that's brilliant. I think it's a really clever way of just creating a little bit of cohesion in the team and going, these are our learnings, these are the things we want to acknowledge. Well done, thank you for what you do, and look forward to seeing you in the new year, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I have seen, and I don't know if you have observed that in corporate SA, but a lot of the people sometimes tend to overthink. Yeah. So if you don't complete it, they might be ruminating on, oh, we haven't really spoken about that, or what about this client, or will we? So in your subconscious, all those things are really going to, take away from your, yes, I can now focus on spending time with a loved one. So yeah, that completion is so important.
Absolutely.
And then the last one really links back to that, but for me, it's a simple thing, but how often do we do that? And for me, it's to be mindfully present and just having fun and quality time with your loved ones. I mean, I remember when I was still working, you might be aware, Kevin, that I'm a mom to 4 kids. So when I'm with them, so often I'm trying to be with them and making as if I'm, present in the moment. But where's my mind? My mind might be at the next meeting or at the next preparation for the PowerPoint. And I think exactly the same with your leave is for you to even psychologically have a leave ritual. And it might be simple things like making sure that your out of office message has been typed and it's there. Who will take over. I mean, there's a plan of if there's a real crisis, who do we phone? Are we taking turns to take responsibility for that? Things like that. It might even be removing. I'm doing that now, removing all work-related apps from my phone. So when I'm on leave, I don't have the, I can't even go and quickly have a look at the emails or quickly have a look at whatever other apps you might have. So again, being very intentional to support you to be present in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think it's the word ritual is the important point there, right? Because we simply don't do it, and that simple idea of just typing out your leave, it's a brilliant way of kind of just bringing that awareness to okay, I need to start shutting down. I need to stop, being in that work mode.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to share is some ways to unwind without drinking. And men's health.
That's a lovely idea.
Yeah,
and you know why I like that? I've just completed a WildFit challenge, and part of the WildFit challenge was to not have alcohol on a very regular basis. So I'm very keen to hear how can I unwind without that that drink.
So, I mean, and it comes from Men's Health, and they published this actually last year already, but, I thought it was still apt and still prevalent. Make time to vent. So, just there's a co-founder of mindful drinking group Club Soda. Deprive yourself of chances to vent. That frustration will build up. So start an after work run club. And I was like, that's such a wonderful idea. And I mean, you could start a holiday time run club. Or just go and do something as a family where you're actually doing an outside activity. So maybe it's an everyday kind of walk around the estate, or walk around the block, or walk around the park, right? And make that part of the routine for the next 30 days. Another one is finding some time to laugh. and I love that. That's something I try and actively do, and TikTok is usually responsible for that. But especially just finding yourself, in a space where you can actually enjoy doing something that has a bit of laughter. Another one is finding your calm, right? So actively going and doing some meditation, and something that's completely anti-stress kind of vibes. One of the things that I was mentioning to you earlier is that I'm actually going to find, for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to find a yoga class to just have some bonding time with my daughter. So just to find that calm and to just, because I don't think yoga is something that she often does or, has ever done. So I'm going to, go put us in a space where we can actually just find our calm and show her how to actually do a bit of brain relaxation without an iPad in her hand. There's another one called...
I love that idea. Sorry, just to build onto the yoga, or even Pilates, it's such a beautiful routine, as you say, to start, simply because it's not only focusing on the physical body, but as you rightfully pointed out, on the mind as well. So you get, two flies with one clap. So in the end, that is magic.
Exactly, yeah. There's another one they mentioned here, is become a solo cinephile. And a cinephile, what does that mean? Is it's a person who researchers have found that if you go and immerse yourself completely on your own, right, into film, concert, or art exhibitions. And I was like, that is a fantastic idea, right? And you kind of really just want to have a day or an hour or the next 3 hours on a Saturday, and you want to just go and be alone and have some alone time. Go and watch a movie. Go and watch a movie on your own, and just, pick a day when it's quiet and people aren't going to be around, or go to the museum. I think many people, my daughter needed to do a project for school the other day, and she spoke and she said, no, she needs to actually do something around museums and be in the museum and take photos. And there are just some amazing museums in Johannesburg, right, that I think a lot of people don't know. For that matter, in South Africa, so going to find something that you can do, completely on your own like that, and watch a movie, go and see some art, go to an art exhibition, and just do something that's not the usual kind of time that you would normally spend, right? Another interesting one was remixing your schedule, right? So usually you would go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. Maybe it's a case of, changing that up and saying, okay, cool, we're going to spend some time doing old movies for, this week, or every Thursday is old movie night. And you go back to, watching some old movies as a family kind of thing on a Thursday evening between, 9 and 2. And just really mixing it up so that, you have really something different to do, which again doesn't involve alcohol. Another one that I love doing is do the right thing. So taking time to write, and write and scribble. Another one that I often do with my daughter is, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's adult coloring books. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, no, I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm not going to color in anything. And then and then I went past the bookstore the one day, and I saw some coloring stuff, and I just bought, and eventually I found myself sitting at the dining room table making this masterpiece, and I was like, outlining every little line, and eventually I got to the point where I would gift it as a present to people. So I would color in a picture and put it in a frame and gift it to them, because some of them turn out, really amazingly. It's really pretty, so it's like a piece of art. Another one that I really love is getting your hands dirty. So really working in the garden, and this can, I always say, I know some people that live in apartment buildings, and they have a beautiful veranda full of pot plants, and and there's something about being out in nature and working with nature that really does something for the brain. So again, just a beautiful way of actually connecting to a quiet space and to being outside. And, I know that Dr. Andy Huberman says, that one of the first things you should do every morning is when you wake up to see the sunrise and have your face directly pointed at the sun, because there's certain stimulants of what your brain goes through when the sunlight actually hits your face. So being outside and obviously using sun protection, but doing that and doing that kind of getting your hands dirty and just working with plants, it's just a beautiful way of relaxing. Another one that they speak about is finding your flow, right? And really asking people to reflect on when you were a child and looking at activities that you would actually lose time in, right? And kind of go there and see what are some of those things that you used to do that you've forgotten that you used to do and that you can tap back into, and for me, that would be going to watch movies on my own, but also the idea of just having some fun activities out in a park. So going to have a picnic and putting a picnic basket together and going to sit in the park and throw a frisbee and have sort of a platter of cheese and meats and stuff like that. Doing that kind of stuff is, I absolutely love doing it. And we used to do it when I was younger. But because you get so busy, you kind of go, it's so much work and I don't have time, and because you're running from one thing to the other. Another last one is a few here, but the last few that are, and I'm sure you already also do this, is elevating your meal preparation. And one of the guys that I've recently seen is she's actually a dietitian, and she actually works in the health organization as a health coach. She mentioned how she actually prepares her meals for the whole week, and I was like, why would you do that? And she's like, because it's so quick and easy, and you can make a variety of things and you can just mix and match them, and then she has everything prepped up right for the whole week. But again, just for relaxation and retreating purposes, also spending time making cookies. I was like, it sounds strange, but I mean, when I want to spend time with my daughter to get her away from the actual some kind of device, the quickest way to do that is just helping her out, like, Bake, can you come help me make some food, right? And she'll stand there and she'll do whatever she needs to do and get involved. But it's just a beautiful way of getting your brain away from doing something that's healthy, that can really just put you in a different space, in a different zone, and move you away from the busy mind and busyness. And the last one that they mentioned here, which is I mentioned earlier, was the go back to the 80s, right? And go and look at those nostalgia movies and be a little bit nostalgic. I don't know. I have one that is sort of a go-to. I know I have two that are sort of go-to. Do you have two favorite movies? My all-time favorite movie that's ever played is The Color Purple with Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah. And the other one is Steel Magnolias.
Both beautiful.
Yes. Do you have favorites like that?
Yeah, no, definitely. So what is my go-to movie for this time of the year is the one Love Actually. Have you seen that? And if you have not, you must go back, because it has a Christmas song. There's so many beautiful stories of love and connection. Yeah, very close to my heart.
Absolutely. So I mean, there's so many things that you can do if you actually, and what I would do is I would also suggest that, leading up to Christmas for the next, where we're now, we're in the first week of Christmas, right? Leading up to Christmas, go and just write it on the fridge in whiteboard Koki or something, and write sort of, okay, cool. This is what we're planning to do for the next for the next 30 days or for the next 25 days, just as a family, where you actively connecting and retreating to get out of the busyness. And I think it's so important for people just to take that step back and have a nice relax.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kevin, when I was listening to you, what comes to mind first of all was back to basics. Yeah. So all of these things, the quality, the intentional, it's simple things, but how often are we really doing them? So I love that. My favorite one is getting your hands dirty. I think that's one that I'm going to actively focus on. And then another one that I would almost like to add to the list, and exactly like you said, it's a few days or a few weeks before Christmas, is having a exercise where on a daily basis, each family member writes something on a piece of paper. What are they grateful for? Putting it in a gratitude jar. And then perhaps either on New Year's Eve or whatever, you start reading, but what are you grateful for? Or each family member. So you pick one of the papers, you read, so Kevin was grateful for XYZ and Anja was grateful for what. I think that's another way to bond and to really share. But this is this is what we are grateful for. Another ritual that we actually have as a family is to, at New Year's, to share what was your word for 2022 and what's the word that you choose. So you're almost setting the context for the new year. So what's your word for 2023? And I mean, it's informal and we always laugh, but there needs to be something a little bit deeper connected to, okay, so what is the word that you would choose? And again, very nice.
Only choose one word.
Only one. Well, you can choose more than one, but I usually say just choose one. Yeah, what if you have to choose one word for 2023? What would that be? And you think about, okay, so if I only have to choose one, which one would be the one that I'm going for?
Absolutely. I love the jar as well, like putting, what you're grateful in the jar. And I think that's beautiful. The last thing that I think, that the list doesn't mention is reading. I take some time, because then I take a whole bunch of books, because I start reading. I'm one of those readers that doesn't finish something. I start with about 7 books, and throughout the year I'm reading all 7. So I take this time, in the holiday time, and then I get Balin to sit with me, and I say, I know you don't like reading, but that's just one of those things. Pick a book and start reading, and then we actually. I force her to just sit there and just read with me and just be in a quiet space to read. Other than that, I think it's been a fantastic time having you with us on the show, and your insights that you've shared with us. We've gone from where we started out, and I think we started out last year, and then I was looking at who would really just add value, and I think your insights and your professional opinion is so sought after, and so I want to thank you as well for that, and that's what I'm grateful for in this, especially for having you on the show and always bringing your part. But in closing words, any last things that you want to share with everyone out there? Because it's it is our last show for this year, and we'll definitely be back in the new year with some new interesting insights about 2023.
Yeah, no, definitely. So Kevin, I think in a lasting thought, what I want to share is that we have shared many tips, things that you can do at work, things that you can do at home. And I think perhaps there might still be listeners thinking, sure, but I'm still struggling to switch off. And my closing comment to those people would be, just consider permitting yourself a holiday time with no interruptions. And sometimes it's just that act of, I'm allowing myself to relax, and I'm allowing myself to color in, or I'm allowing myself to get my hands dirty, or not really do something very productive is what's needed. So my wish from my family to everyone out there is to have a quality festive season with lots of good breaks and basics. Let's focus on just connecting with our loved ones, and I'm wishing you all the best for 2023. And Kevin, from my side personally to you, thank you so much for the invite. I will always remember the first interview that we did, as you said, about 18 months or perhaps even longer ago. I think we spoke about Agile HR. And what always stood out for me is the space that you create for us that's part of your show, to feel just relax and just to be ourselves. And I think that's the quality that I always appreciate about you, of the ability to just connect via a virtual platform and making us feel welcome.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that. I that's the point, and I would hate for anyone to be here feeling uncomfortable or dismissed in any way. And because I think, people do, when you create space for people to shine, people invariably shine, and that's really, my aim inevitably. But one of the things that as you were speaking now about well wishes for everyone and it's something someone once asked me, and they sort of caught me off guard and said, what is the advice you could leave for people? And I was like, and in a blink of an instant, in a moment, it sort of occurred to me, and I said, love yourself to give yourself the chance. Love yourself enough to give yourself the chance, right? And I think that's what, part of this message about relax and retreat is today, is just come back to, how do we love ourselves just a little bit more, especially if you've got some holiday time, especially if you've got family time. How do we cultivate, actively love ourselves a little bit more, just so that we feel a little bit rejuvenated by the time we get back, right? And the way that you do that is internalized, and do it from inside. So as you wished everyone as well, a wonderful festive season and a wonderful new year. And thank you so much for being here, and thank you for always being ready and available to share your insights. So I really appreciate you. Thank you, Anja. Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening. Anja, I'll see you soon. Chat soon.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Ciao,
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.